We're gonna
No,
wait
not
for
yet.
it. Okay.
Live from Treffert Studios. My name is Dr. Ashvin Sood, and I'm with Dr. Jeremy Chapman and our special guest who we'll introduce later today. And we are Divergent Minds, a weekly podcast on Meta or Facebook, if you'd like to call it, held every Wednesday from 12:15 to 12:45 Central Standard Time. And Dr. Chapman, who are we talking with today?
We're talking with the one, the only, the inimitable, the infamous and famous Bryan Mischler, psychotherapist here at SSM Health Treffert Studios. Wonderful human being. We're honored to be joined by him today, talking about holidays and the stress or mental health surrounding those. It's 11/1 today. We're entering holiday season here in the U.S. And I was doing a little bit ago while we were figuring some of this tech stuff out, a little free association game with Bryan where I said one word and he told me the one word that it made him think of. And then we're going to circle back and hear a little bit more about that with some stories. Okay.
Like
You ready
that.
to do it? I did it with
Yeah.
him. I mean, we'll do a couple with you now.
Should I
Okay.
lay down on the couch and just you just start letting it go?
Here we go.
Yes,
You
okay,
ready?
go for it.
Relatives.
Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Am I going to now or doing
Yeah, give him a word. Yeah.
I said like get-togethers, holiday get-togethers.
Okay, good. Snow.
Is it like immediate? Is that what we're trying to do?
Immediate. It could be anything. It could be anything that's unrelated.
Frosty the Snowman. That was the first thing that popped up in my head.
The first thing that popped in my head was Wisconsin.
Okay.
We already got snow.
We already have snow here outside today. Okay. Gift.
Musical box that was under my Christmas tree when I was young that would play 8-bit recording sounds of Silent Night and Rudolph the Reindeer.
Wow, that's quite an association. How about you? Gift.
I said, well, it's kind of cheating now because you said that one already. I said Christmas.
Awesome. I'll do one more. One more. Leftovers.
Exhaustion, tired after having the biggest Thanksgiving dinner meal and sitting on the couch looking at my waistline asking, why did I do that?
Okay, wow.
I would say Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving has got to be the best holiday for leftovers.
All right. So yeah, I wanted that to kind of fuel a little bit of a discussion topics. Now we know a lot of people have stress related to the holidays. A lot of people, of course, have family stressors, or they're worrying about gifts, having money for gifts such as an 8-bit music box. People might be worrying about getting a meal together, getting everything ready for their relatives to come. So we'll open up the floor. Obviously, people who are watching as well are welcome to give us some thoughts or questions on the subject. But I think an obvious one, let's start with Thanksgiving, because we still have some time yet to do the December holidays. Maybe we can focus on Thanksgiving. Do you have any memories growing up of, maybe stress around Thanksgiving, Bryan?
I don't know necessarily. I think the stress of a lot of that stuff is just trying to get everywhere that you need to go.
To the logistics.
I think that, well, and if we talk about from a neurological perspective, sometimes excitement can be, and stress is the same feeling.
Yes.
With a different perspective.
Yes.
We can be super excited for something, but that still puts us in a hyper aroused state where things can go south in a hurry.
And also the expectations. You have high hopes and expectations of how it's going to go. You want everything to go perfectly. If you're someone who's getting things ready with the meal or the house, you want it to be a wonderful memory, and that adds a sense of tension to it. And then if it's inevitably not how you were hoping, what about yourself? Any stressful memories you can think of from, let's say, Thanksgiving?
I think there are a lot of, holidays are complex, if I can say the least, because they're often my favorite time of year because it's a break from school, it's a break from work, it's just go to have fun, right? But there's different expectations from every person when they come to Thanksgiving meal, right? Mom's cooked in my household, we cooked this incredible meal, right? And we need help. And all the boys in our family, including myself, would be like, it's time to rest and relax, and wouldn't help. So from my perspective, it was fantastic. Great time, great food, it'll be great. But from her perspective, she was overworked, exhausted, having to put on, the traditional gender role of being the nurturing mom and
Right.
running this entire meal. So that's just one layer to kind of think about, and how that translates into your family home. And I'm also interested from you, Dr. Chapman, as well, and your comments on that, as well as anyone in the audience, if they have any reflection about that statement of like the stress of holidays.
I remember Uncle Leo cutting turkey with the electric knife, and everyone was worried about it. Would we get all of the meat off of it, and would we be able to avoid the bones and cartilage and stuff? And I remember that for some reason, that's a memory I have of something that was stressful about Thanksgiving. Why is that something that sticks out in my mind? I don't know. But I think it may be, and Uncle Leo, if you're watching this, if you happen to be watching this, I'm sure you are. You did a great job. I'm not downplaying that at all. We always have plenty of nicely sliced things. I don't know. Maybe it's just he would be in our kitchen if we were hosting. He would be. Maybe that was a little bit weird for me, seeing family members occupying and even using parts of my house that I associate with being my own house. I don't know. That could be an element of it too, because people are. I don't want to say intrude, but you might have people who are up in your space that normally aren't. Especially if we're thinking about kids here, right? All of a sudden, you have to come up with some way to host your cousin. Maybe they're staying with you, maybe you have to entertain them, or maybe they just stress you out. I don't know. I mean, and these particular family stuff that you think comes up a lot, maybe even when you're talking with clients.
Well, for sure, I think that the big thing that causes a lot of stress for my clients that are neurodiverse is a huge change in routine across the board. I feel, and there's a couple of things that happen here and we talked about this last time I was on too, but the change in weather. I think that I was on when we talked about going into summer.
Yep.
Here, those holidays hit right when there's a severe change in weather here in Wisconsin. And it's drastic. Yep. Like we had snow yesterday. The day before that, it was 60 degrees warmer.
And a few days before that, it was like 70 or 80. Yeah.
So it shifts so fast into wearing t-shirts and shorts to like you wake up 2 days later and you're in jacket, gloves, boots, which is a totally different sensory experience.
Yeah, we definitely
and then and sometimes it comes along with neurodiversity is a lack or a struggle with communication. And I think when you struggle with communication, routine is what allows you to know what's supposed to happen. And during the holidays, that routine gets thrown out. I feel like it starts around, it certainly starts around Halloween time, because there's this shift in what is your typical response to a lot of these places. Then all of a sudden there's extra parties. There's parties you're going to outside, there's extra additional programs, and then you have 2 weeks on, and then you have off the school
days off.
The change, like I always kind of look at, for everybody else it might take 2 or 3 days. For our people on the spectrum, it could take 2 to 6 weeks.
Interesting.
And by the time, I mean, if we look at that from Halloween, by the time you get used to something, we're like through Christmas.
By the time you adjust.
So you often hear about a big lots of people are like big escalations from now through the new year, and then there seems to be a leveling off at the beginning of the year.
It's a lack of control too. You don't know what's happening. All of a sudden you hear that Aunt Phyllis and Uncle Herb are coming over tonight, and you didn't have time to prepare for that, and you worry about, well, how am I going to interact with them? So I think a lot of social anxiety gets stoked too, right? But people are not in control, and oftentimes not even aware of what's happening on any given night or weekend or trip or a day off from school. And that, I think, can be hard for a lot of people too. A lot of our patients and clients like to be kept in the know about stuff. And there might be frequent changes that only the parents know about and didn't have a chance to relay to the kids. Oh, by the way, grandma's not going to make it tonight.
And I want to even add to all of this that even non-neurodivergent, right?
For sure.
are they're not just going through the prototypical changes of no school or whatever have you. They might be in households where, parents are separated, and that changes the routine of like Monday, Wednesday time with dad, and Tuesday, Thursday time with mom, where one parent gets the child for the entire holiday weekend or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
which can also be very kind of dismantling and out of the ordinary. And also, often holidays, while be celebratory in some way, can be an anniversary of loss in some way, shape, or
Mm-hmm.
form. A family member might not be there anymore. Parents are separated, and that family kind of picture that might have been, a portrait in that child's mind might not be the same as what it used to be. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's that aspect of when we think about children's mental health, it can sometimes be lost in like pop media, or like when you turn on the Thanksgiving Macy's parade and everyone's talking about, how amazing Thanksgiving is, or any type of celebration is we can sometimes forget that.
Oh, yes. Well, we've talked about it, several different potential issues and pitfalls. So I want to make sure we reserve some time today, especially because we only have a handful of minutes left here for some advice and guidance for people who
Yeah.
might be relating to some of the stuff that we're saying. I have some thoughts, of course, but what are one or two things that you find yourself telling a lot of the people in your office during this part of the year to help them through it, whether it's the kids themselves or the parents?
Well, a couple of the things is providing some of that predictability
That's what I was thinking.
for the kids. So letting them know. And that kind of extends like during all these times we have a lot of social events, but it's not enough just to tell a child, okay, we're going to be social or not being social. I like to use this as an example. If you go to a Christmas concert at the PAC,
Mm-hmm.
that's a very different social environment than opening up Christmas presents on Christmas morning with your
Right.
cousins. So it's
Right.
not enough just to say, it's
Something
going to be
happens.
social, because the expectations at that Christmas concert is very different than the expectations at like a Christmas party that's geared towards kids and is looking at like running around is okay. Yelling loudly is okay. But then you
Yes.
go to the next place and you're like, okay, now we're not allowed to talk at all.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do go to those places, like to kind of set up like, okay, if we're at this Christmas concert and you're feeling anxious, give me the sign and we'll go
Right.
go out here and go to that spot. This is the place we'll meet. We can hang out here. It's quieter, so that you're providing some aspect of predictability, so the child doesn't have to have an additional worry of like, what happens if I can't handle this?
Yeah.
And then worry about like what's going to happen, because that's when I think if you don't have a plan, that's when the meltdown happens in the concert.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you prepare them and go like, if you can't make this, let me know and we'll leave. All of those experiences should be fun and enjoyable. You don't want to set up a thing, enjoy it for as long as you can, but have the expectation that maybe we won't be able to stay until the end. And then it's not kind of disappointing for everybody. You can enjoy it at that level. I do think more and more, and we talked about this yesterday in a meeting too, you're seeing more and more like sensory aware opportunities. So even those things at the PAC, they'll have like one or two of the shows will be specifically for people that maybe are neurodiverse and is not your typical audience. Try to find those kinds of opportunities. Those places and situations not only provide them some of those extra, like, where are we going to meet, what's going to happen, the people watching are also more sympathetic to
that's true.
to the scenario, and
that.
You don't have to although this is wrong, I think that families feel a certain amount of guilt or embarrassment when something like that happens in public. That kind of plays into
a meltdown,
to the whole thing. They feel like they're being judged,
and then
and sometimes they are. I mean, sometimes that is the truth of the situation. There's lots of parents who are like, we were asked to leave, and so to find those support areas, those support groups, those holiday enjoyment type activities that consist of other people who have an understanding and are providing
Right.
great experiences for even here. We,
There's a lot
tonight
here.
is our Halloween party, our
Treffert
sensory
Studios,
friendly
Treffert
Treffert
Treats.
Studios. So,
Dr. Sood, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Brian's nailing it right on the head. Having routine, preparing for what could happen, um, reflecting on how it went as well. What went well after the event? What didn't go well? Right? Checking in with that. I think that is super important too. What could we have worked? What could we work on next time that could make things go better? I think that's a great exercise to kind of do with kids, with teenagers, particularly even with yourself, just to give yourself that sense. Again, there's a lot of pressure on Christmas, on Halloween, on Thanksgiving to be perfect, to have that quintessential family image. That's a lot of people, right? So I just hope people, when they listen to this, understand that like it's okay if the turkey doesn't come out perfectly. It's okay if a kid has a tantrum, in the middle of Thanksgiving. That's okay. That's just a portion of it, right? It's a disruption a little bit. And we don't have to be perfect.
And the parents' reaction to the tantrum
Yeah.
and the embarrassment that they feel can actually end up escalating the tantrum more, because now the parents are upset that they were embarrassed. And so, yeah, I think what you're getting at is like our society anyway is really, really lousy at preparing for and reflecting on the holidays. We tend to just get swept up into them. They sneak up on us all of a sudden. Get your stuff on. We got to get there at 6 p.m. We're late. And then you get home and there's just been maybe a tantrum or something, and no one stops to say, how can we retool this for next time around? One thing that also you mentioned was kind of having a safe space at the place, almost like a home away from home. And I had I have a patient whose parents came up with a great system where she kind of reaches her limit at a certain point. She can be there for an hour, and then she pretty much says, Mom, Dad, I'm done now. Time to go home.
Yeah.
And the mom and dad don't necessarily want to leave yet because they've just had a time to have a few conversations with people. So they came up with like we did this together. Like, what are the things that make her feel comfortable? And we set up like a mini, almost like tent, almost either that they could keep in their car or in a quiet room in the household that she could retreat to, reset. I mean, you do this at school all the time too, and then maybe reemerge, or at the very least stay there for longer so that mom and dad didn't have to leave immediately.
I think that's a great idea. Or even if you're going to a relative's house, like what's a spare bedroom? Where you can do bringing the kids lots of times now headphones, not necessarily noise canceling, but if they need to be on their electronics, like that is kind of a buffer that gives you some additional time and expands the length that often our kiddos can tolerate one of those situations if they can get into that and then kind of come out of that and go back into that and have that space.
When you look at schools have 504 plans and IEPs, and it's about accommodating someone's needs. And I think oftentimes, we don't apply that to ourselves. If you were the school, what would you be expecting the school to do? And you have to have that same amount of compassion and patience for your child so that they can reasonably get through it. And, again, what would you demand your school do? Would it be to provide an extra room, some headphones, some exit plans, check-ins, things like that, I think are fully applicable with the stress of going to a family's house. What are y'all doing for Thanksgiving? Any ideas yet?
I'm gonna be in Virginia. My
That's as much as you
siblings
know.
and my parents are gonna be kind of all live near me, so we're gonna be celebrating. So that's not going anywhere anytime soon.
I'm gonna know, I think, while I'm on my way to the place. I'm gonna learn what I'm doing, which is a great opportunity for me to do things differently this year. It is 12:45 or 6 right now. We got a late start, but we still have to wrap up in a few minutes, and we always wrap up with a task. I'm gonna actually assign the task, I think, for people, our little challenge, and then we'll have a minute or two for each of you to think about what you would do for this challenge.
Okay.
And it's along the lines of what we were saying already, and that is to take 5 or 10 minutes in the remainder of this hour right now, and given all the stuff we were just talking about, think, is there anything that you can do right now, 4 weeks before Thanksgiving, to get things in place for yourself or your family to make it smoother, whether that means thinking right now about a recipe you might help cook, or an exit plan for someone who might need it. Anything that comes to mind, make a little proactive plan that you can then share with your spouse or your children way ahead of time. We have a chance to get a head start right now. Do either of you have anything that applies to you that you could really start thinking about it before it sneaks up on you?
I got
Yeah,
one
go for it.
before Dr. Ash jumps in and steals it.
Okay.
And then I don't
Go
have
for it.
another
I've been
one.
stealing so much today. I'm so sorry.
What you
Go for
got?
it.
I would say start that schedule now. Like bust out a calendar,
Yeah.
start putting like where those things need to go. Because you don't really know what you need to do to prepare until you know what things that you have. And then and I would do it sitting down with those people that need to be involved. If the child is able to sit down and go through that together, to kind of be like, okay, you know, it's the beginning of the month, we got 3 weeks, you're gonna have off of school here, here's the times that we're going to people, and I'd go all the way through the end of the year.
That's great. And you can even leave some blank spaces.
I would even schedule the blank spaces, because I do think with getting overwhelmed, the best thing I see time and time again is to provide those additional sensory diet things.
In the spaces.
And often people are like, well, when he gets escalated, then, and I'm always like, once you're escalated, there's really nothing you can do. You have to wait
Absolutely.
it out. So providing, like, you go to a thing, providing a lot of calming sensory activities, and then the things that the child enjoys before you go, and then when
Right.
you're coming back, to also plan some calming sensory activities, sink back into routine,
Yeah.
and to make sure you're still providing some sort of routine,
Ahead of
you
time.
know, a long time. Here's the routine parts that are going to stay the same, and putting
Here's
that on
gonna
the
be different.
calendar.
Yeah.
And here's some of the things that are going to be a little different.
And and I should clarify, actually, because when I say blank spaces, what I mean is maybe we don't know yet if we're going to be going to Aunt Jilly's house or Uncle Alan's house, but we're going to be going somewhere. And so we can fill that in later. But just so you know, no matter where we go, we're going to want to get this, that, and the other thing together. You don't feel like you have to wait until you know exactly what you're going to be doing to prepare for the fact that you're going to be doing something different, right? And then maybe 2 weeks before you decide whose house you're going to, and then just kind of fill that in and adjust as needed. What do you have?
Well, I'm going to quickly tell you, and then we'll sign off because we're a little bit over. But what I'm planning to do is, because we have a 15-month-old, I'm going to group text everybody that we're going to dinners with, and I'm going to gently ask them if they can plan to have dinner ready by maybe 6, so we can do photos and food all together, so I can put my little down at around 7:30. We're going to see how well that goes, but I'm going to
Giving them
prepare
4
for that.
weeks notice.
Yeah.
4 weeks notice. And there's also interpersonal dynamics in there, but we won't get into that.
It's a different episode.
But thank you all for joining us, and appreciate, our wonderful production team for working through the technical difficulties.
Yes.
My name is Dr. Ashwin Sood. I'm with Dr. Jeremy Chapman. The wonderful Bryan Mischler was with us today, talking about holidays, dealing with the stress for neurodivergent youth, and how do we navigate those stresses. If you'd like to learn more about our work at the SSML Treffert Studios, follow us here on the Facebook page, here at SSM Health Treffert Studios, or TreffertStudios.com. Y'all have a wonderful day.
See you later, everybody. Talk soon.
Happy holidays.